Don't speak what you don't understand. The truth is not in your command. Don't shout about what you think is fake. The decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are. Tall tales will take you very far. Don't scoff when they say it's the end. In this life, you know you can't pretend.
Hey everyone, it's Marianne from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. For those of you that do not know me, I am the president of the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees, an organization that is about 500,000 retirees strong of municipal workers, 250,000 of which are Medicare eligible retirees. These are your retirees who are disabled, over 65 years old. So we have a vulnerable population amongst us as well, but we represent each of our retirees very individually. Some of them have other more concerning issues than others, but we are there to fight for each and every one of them. We also have 9/11 responders, 9/11 survivors, line of duty widows and widowers, and our disabled children among our population. So moving into tonight's show, we do a Friday night live every Friday to help advocate for our retirees and address the issues. We're still currently in court with the city of New York because they haven't stopped fighting us. And now we've been very active in the political realm in trying to make sure that we have people that are willing to listen to our issues, communicate with us, keep that communication open, understand the concerns for our population, our New York City municipal retirees and the elderly, and also work with us. So tonight, I'm very happy to host this space for two candidates that agreed. We did reach out to all three candidates. Two did respond. The first hour you will have with Curtis Sliwa, who's a Republican candidate running for mayor. And then the second hour, we'll move on to the next candidate. So just so you are aware, we did reach out to Zoran Mamdani and he did not reply, but that was no shock to us because he hasn't communicated with us in 10 months. So I'm not going to waste any more time because we have a lot of questions we have for Mr. Sliwa, and I want to give him this opportunity to speak with you because we have some great things for him to address with us. And as you know, the two candidates that did support a New York City retiree, so we don't need to get into the mess of things, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, both support New York City retirees. They've signed our pledge. They've met with us. They've discussed the issues. And today, if you go onto Twitter, and I'll show you in a moment, Curtis actually announced his support again for New York City retirees, and I'll show you that once he comes on. So everyone, please welcome Curtis Sliwa.
Well, thank you, Marianne. And thanks
You're welcome.
to all those municipal retirees. You know, I have to sort of think back to when you actually allowed me on the stage with all the Democrats at that time running in their primary, because they had always said no to having Curtis Sliwa on a stage. And that was the first time. And they were naturally sorting it out amongst themselves. Eventually, Zoran Mamdani beat Andrew Cuomo. But that night at City University, there in Midtown, when Brad Lander, the city controller, agreed with me 3 times on the stage and said, there must be something wrong with me, I'm agreeing with Curtis Sliwa. And if you watch the two debates, the first debate between Zoran, Cuomo, and myself by NBC, where clearly NBC, the acronym stood for Not Broadcasting Curtis, because they tried to keep me out of the discussion in the first 10 minutes. And you know me, I was going to work my words in edgewise, and I did. And at the end of that debate, Zoran had agreed with me 3 times, Cuomo 2 times. And it happened again in the last debate at LaGuardia Community College in Long Island City, when some of the candidates agreed with me again. So even though I'm the Republican candidate and I have an independent line, first ever in the history of electoral politics in the United States, that caters to animal welfare. It's called Protect Animals, No Kill Shelters, and Animal Abusers Go to Jail, created by my wife, Nancy, who's dedicated her life, like so many others, to the care and the protection of animals, whether they're feral outdoors or they're members of our family, because most Americans now view pets as family members. So there's two ways to vote for me. And the most interesting thing is that if we turn the clock back to 2021, I was on that stage with then Eric Adams, Brooklyn Borough president, who obviously we didn't know about his baggage at that time. He was the new face of the Democratic Party. They were already touting him as potentially being presidential timber, maybe in 4 or 8 years. It was almost like they were ignoring me. But I remember in the two debates that we had, this all came up. Are we going to abide by the promise made, promise kept? Municipal workers will continue to have their medical care, their Medicare, their choice of doctor, extraordinarily important. And obviously the copays and everything reimbursed immediately and not a 3 or 6 month layover. I remember Eric Adams winding up. I wore bulletproof vest for 22 years. I was a municipal worker. I will not let my brothers and sisters down. The moment he said that, here's the typical politician. Stab back. Is after he got sworn in, after he beat me fair and square, January 1st of 2022, within days, he was embracing the UFT and Michael Mogul and say, we're going to do it their way. And no. We are no longer going with traditional Medicare.
It's
and
crazy.
I said to myself, well, am I surprised? And then we noticed that this is when the two Adams, Adrian Adams and Eric Adams, were on the same page, and they loved Aetna. Oh, they loved Aetna. Then it turns out that Michael Mogul, facing a challenge to his own leadership in the party, decided to dump out on Aetna, go back to the original plan because his members were mumbling and grumbling. And that left Eric Adams out there walking the gangplank. But just like when it came to so many other issues, it was personal to him.
Right.
He decided he would go to court, use corporation counsel to challenge each and every occasion that all of you pooled your resources in order to go into court and get that traditional Medicare program reinstored. And that cost you a lot of money.
It did.
And then finally, when he read the tea leaves, he was one and done, and he made one last gasp in trying to run for re-election off the failure of Andrew Cuomo to run a campaign against Zoran Mandami. Remember, June 24th,
right?
Cuomo threw in the towel, said, no mas, no mas. And so all of a sudden, Eric Adams was revived. And Randy Mastro, the deputy mayor, was saying, this is what you got to do. Reinvent yourself. Everything you said before, undo it. And he issued that letter, and we all stood in that sweltering heat outside of City Hall. And remember, I had a wool beret, so it was, I was schwitzing. And I remember reading the letter, and I remember that line, at this time. And I said, oh, this is what we call tricknology. At this time, how about for all time? And how about for reimbursing all the expenses that people had to pool their resources in order to keep going in and challenging again and again? So I don't trust any of these politicians. Any of you who've ever heard me publicly before or on talk radio for 35 years, you remember the promotion of my show was Curtis Sliwa says, trust no politicians. I trust the people. And so the people spoke, and they've continued to speak, and we need to keep the traditional Medicare plan. And to me, it was so obvious. We found $7 billion from migrants that we didn't even know, who got the best.
How much worse this gets, that maybe said there's a new thing that you don't know. So the city of New York had been using a fund called the Health Insurance Stabilization Fund. It's known to have been misused by both the Municipal Labor Committee and several mayors past. This fund actually paid for the welfare fund benefits for our widows, widowers, and our children's funds. These are people who lost their loved ones in the line of duty, mostly police and fire, but others as well, like EMS, some corrections, sanitation, etc. And the cost to their welfare fund benefits is approximately $3 million a year. That's it. I want you to know that right now, the city of New York told the Municipal Labor Committee, because that fund has no money in it, that the unions would have to finance the cost of the widows and children's welfare fund benefits. Welfare fund is prescription, vision, and dental. It's a small cost, but small cost to the city in the grand scheme of things of $120 million annual budget. The unions will never be able to finance that. Never. It's extremely expensive. Unions only make what they get in union dues. And because city headcount is down, the unions their dues collection is also down, and they won't be able to fund that. Think about fire, police. The fire department had 340 active firefighters that had passed away, one priest, father judge, and 2 paramedics. So 343 people altogether. To put out of the firefighters and fire officers welfare fund that almost full $3 million is impossible. And the city of New York told the MLC as of the end of November, they will no longer be paying for that. So there's a need. I'm letting you know that today, because if you become mayor on January 1st, you're going to need to help the unions take care of this one issue that no one has addressed, not even Mayor Adams.
Well, thank you for enlightening me. I never declared in this campaign or the previous campaign that I was all-knowing, omnipotent. That's why I would have to surround myself with people knowledgeable in all these areas who could bring to my attention and then obviously say, okay, we know there's a lot of waste in this budget that's growing. Let's start cutting the waste and finding the money. But in the vernacular that I would typically hear, as you described it, Marianne, if you spoke Yiddish, this would be a shanda. If you spoke Italian, this would be disgraziata. They can't find the money to sustain this. They find money for everything else. And I just go back to the migrant issue. I'll give you an example. Recently, in that same budget you mentioned, I saw the unity effort on stage, in which you had Eric Adams embracing Adrian Adams, the Speaker of the Council, and Justin Brannan, the outgoing financial chairman of the City Council. And they found $55 million for migrant expenses, only $4 million for veterans. So it is clear that their priorities are just dysfunctional compared to where it should be for the municipal workers who gave of all their time in service to New York City. Many of them never recognized, never given any attention or recognition. That's the other. It's a sidebar to what I'm saying is that when I'm mayor, all these municipal workers who have great ideas, I know because they're already sending me volumes. I get snail mail. It's a lot of the older folks. That's it. They write it out meticulously. Others email me. These are wonderful ideas. They never see the light of day because it's the politicians who want it to be their way. So whenever you see a politician come out with index cards and start reading that the staff has prepared, you know where that came from. It wasn't them. They're too busy getting wine dined and pocket line, Democrats and Republicans. So on this note, of course you can find that money. It's there. And it requires that you have the budget director who knows when to say no when Eric Adams pulls his strings. You order the budget director and his staff to say, you go through that budget. You do the spreadsheets. I know the money is there. I don't know with specificity where it is, but I know when you've always needed to find money before you can find it, this is a priority. Find it. If we can't do this for the people who serve New York City and gave up a much better opportunity to make money in the private sector, then this is a stain on the city that cannot undo itself. Only we can. And this is logical and this makes common sense. But I'm telling you, the one thing I've come across in dealing in city government with Democrats and Republicans, and for everybody out there, I know how this works. I raised 2 boys in Forest Hills with Melinda Katz, who is now the Queens DA, Democrat, who was an assemblywoman, city councilwoman, land use chairwoman, borough president. I learned from her what can be done and can't be done. And trust me, if they have the will, there's a way. And in this case, it's stubbornness. And they talk the talk when they want your vote and they want your support. But when they actually have to do some heavy lifting, apparently, if they don't want to do it, they come up with an excuse. There's not enough money for it. To give you an example, I was with the a veterans committee earlier today, and veterans were sent postcards about all the benefits. Now, there are 200,000 veterans that we know of that live in New York City. Most of them are obviously baby boomers, senior citizens. The Department of Veterans Services said they didn't have enough money to send a postcard to 200,000 veterans, men and women. So they sent it only to 52,000, a postcard. And as I confronted the Department of Veterans Services, I said, really? You couldn't find the extra money for an additional 148,000 postcard, not even an envelope, which makes it seem more official, like, hey, I want to open up this envelope, see what this is, a postcard. But when they want to do franking privilege and mailing to you about what great city council people they are, how they're serving, boy, their expenses, I mean, we're talking top shelf, 5-star mailings that you get. I call it junk mail because it's all propaganda, but we're paying for that.
Well, we have a couple of actually, we have a lot of retiree questions that came in that I want to start to ask you. So one of the issues that retirees have is transportation. Many of our retirees are disabled or have mobility issues. So a question that came up was Access-a-Ride remains an unreliable form of transportation for older adults. How could your administration reform it to make it more responsive with shorter wait times and better scheduling?
Well, my mother, in her waning years, Francesca, who's no longer with us, had to use Access-a-Ride for many, many years. I mean, she'd be waiting a month of Sundays for that jitney to arrive. I mean, sometimes waiting. Sometimes the drivers, they didn't have a bedside manner. They needed a GPS. They didn't know where they were going or how they were getting there. There was no priority for them at all. And I got to tell you, that as a transportation alternative for seniors to get their health care, to be able to make their visits, whether to hospital, their physician, their therapist, must be prioritized. Now, the reason I would do it is I remember my mother. My mother never cursed. In all the years, she never cursed. She was Bades. She would do her novenas, her stations of the cross. If she heard the F-bomb, if her brothers used the F-bomb, she would say the rosaries for them. She thought they would all go to hell. In her latter life, she'd be cursing up to the high heavens because Access-a-Ride was almost never on time, almost never was able to service her needs. And she missed about 1/3 of her appointments because she would get there too late because it hadn't been organized properly. That's because the city never views its taxpayers or its seniors as clients. If this were a business, they'd go out of business. There was no client relationship. And I would understand that, having seen what my mom went through, having to drop things at times and run all the way to Canarsie to then immediately get her to where she had to go for her healthcare visit.
So would you consider piloting a community-based micro transit or shuttle program for older adults in areas where there was poor transit coverage?
Yeah, I just wouldn't use those dollar vans or those $2 vans.
I thank you for
on
that.
Jamaica Avenue and on Flatbush Avenue. Oh, that's
Well,
a
actually,
wild ride. It's
that,
cheap, but it's wild. You're taking your life into your hands. No, I could easily see that. And especially to these up-and-coming micro businesses that are hungry, who want the business, but also understand the special needs of the seniors, which are many, as opposed to what would be for typically millennials, Gen Zers, or those who are about 55.
And this is a concern too. Linda from Staten Island writes, housing continues to grow in Staten Island, but SIM buses are frequently not dependable and SIRR platforms are all not handicapped accessible and need work. So that's a Staten Island community issue, of course. But since after some of the debates, it was recognized that not many of the candidates have been to Staten Island frequently. But this is an issue that does need to be addressed for the next mayor. So another issue would be food access and food banks. Food insecurity among retirees is rising. What could you do to stabilize funding for food pantries and meal programs serving seniors, like a Meals on Wheels, rather than relying on short-term grants?
Well, I actually worked with the Franciscans Food Pantry program, which was right next to Madison Square Garden, where I was broadcasting from for about 35 years at WABC. And I saw the Franciscan monks in addition to the secular helpers. And I was blown away by the number of people that I would never have thought didn't have enough food to survive. So I think we have to access a survey that determines how many people need food. And again, it's got to be good food. I've been to a lot of food pantries in a lot of places where the food you're giving to the people in need will put them in the ER or the ICU unit. It's like it's bad for them. And there's so many opportunities at sort of introducing to them, even later in their life, a much better diet, much better food. But it's something that we have to focus on now. We've got cuts from the federal government. And all I heard were two guys on the stage saying, they're going to go chest to chest with Donald Trump. Look, I'm the toughest guy on that stage, but I'll tell you, you're not going to win with Donald Trump by being adversarial. It's the art of the deal with him. You have to be able to sit down with him and his minions. You got to give in order to get. Look, they already cut the SNAP program. At the end of the month, we're going to run out of badly needed SNAP money because of the reductions. Watch this shoplifting increase. I'm a street guy. Less SNAP cards, less food stamps, more shoplifting, and not necessarily because I want to sell it out in the streets, but out of necessity and need. You see, the bureaucrats, the elected officials never think like that because they're not dealing in neighborhoods and communities. I've been in all 350 communities, and you can see the need. So that would absolutely be prioritized. Now, where do you get the money from? It's got to be a partnership with a lot of philanthropic organizations to make sure that the food gets to the right people who are in need. A lot of times, that food ends up going to the very wrong places and ends up on shelves of grocery stores. And you say, whoa, this was supposed to go to the people who are needy. So I think transparency and security is a key concern whenever you have this. And the city can do that. It's very difficult for what I call the industrial complex of nonprofits to do that because too often they're worried about other things.
So another question on housing came up. Would you commit to expanding and promoting the Senior Citizen Rent Increase Exemption, SCREE for short, and Disability Rent Increase Exemption, DREE programs by ensuring that they're automatically applied when eligible?
Well, I'm the only candidate who, as part of my effort to keep people here, improve, don't move, want to immediately, if you're 65 or older, and you earn less than $265,000 a year, no property tax. I remember when I was a kid, property tax was nothing. And that's why everybody was, that's why we stay in Queens and Brooklyn. Look at them in Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, Jersey. Now it's comparable. It's like at 20% and growing. So that's it. If you're 65 and older, you make less than $265,000, no property tax. The mayor can control that. That's one of those measures a mayor can control, and it will be done because that's the number one complaint I run across of the seniors who are planning to stay. But they say, I can't stay. It's just not if I can't pay the property tax. I love this home, but I got to leave. That's number one. Number two, why don't we have a pecking order? When it comes to affordable apartments that are available, there are three categories. A, we have 6,000 NYCHA apartments that are empty, and they've been empty for years. Shame on you, Eric Adams.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden you're a senior and you're in need, or you're a veteran and you're in need, or you're handicapped and you're in need, you should have a priority at those 6,000 empty apartments. Then every time they open up affordable apartments, and I'm against the city of yes, because they want to come into residential areas. They want to bring bulldozers and wrecking balls. They don't want to have to deal with the city council, community board, zoning restrictions. I say you don't have to go any further than Manhattan. There are 25 Empire State Buildings worth of empty office space. 25 Empire State Buildings, and it'll never be used for office space again. It takes a year to convert that to an affordable apartments. It's got the infrastructure all there, the stores, everything you need to be able to survive. You don't have to start developing infrastructure. If you were to start building a affordable apartment building of 300 units from beginning to end, it takes you 5 years. So I love how I'll have 500,000 units. No, I'll have 1 million units. In Italian, we have a word for that, chiacchierare. That's the Pinocchio. That's sort of like Zoran. You know, every time he talks, I say that's fantasy, not reality. I say, unlike Pinocchio, where your nose grows, your smile just gets bigger and bigger and bigger because it doesn't make sense. And I think I've established myself as the common sense candidate for mayor. Forget the party affiliations. I know some of you are Republican. Do I sound like a Republican? Come on. That's why there are some Republicans out there who don't like me, because I don't follow the party line. I am a populist who is the working class candidate running for mayor. The other two do not represent working class interests.
So let's do another question for you. How would your administration ensure that city agencies coordinate senior services so retirees aren't bounced between departments for basic needs?
Well, it's like anything else I've dealt with in government, federal, state, or city. One department has to talk to the other department. Mm-hmm. And it is incumbent that the deputy mayors crack the whip and make sure that they're not being like squirrels, housing all the information and refusing to share it. Because that's the biggest problem with government. They have access to funding. They have access to information. And there's no sharing process. That's what your deputy mayors are for. And a lot of them, let's face it, they should never have been deputies of anything, because they were just there because they were friends of the mayor, or they had contacts with the billionaires or the insiders. That's not what deputy mayors do. Deputy mayors have to go in and they got to crack the whip. They got to be bad guys and bad gals and say, no, transparency. Every week I want to report on my desk. And that's going to be transparency, if it puts us in a good light or it puts us in a bad light. I don't want good news bears. Just like in the Guardian Angels that I ran for 46 years, I'd be talking to people in different countries who are Guardian Angels. They say, yeah, I know all the good you do. Now tell me the bad things that are happening, because it's impossible that anybody is that good with no problems. I'm a realist. Deal with the bad news, transparency, take the heat, and then fix it. But the biggest problem in government is, again, the inability of each commissioner to share with the other commissioners in their departments, the department heads, and it never filters down. So the people who have to deliver the services basically don't know half the time that other agencies are duplicating their work. Why do we have all this duplication? We need to streamline it down. And the Adams administration has never done that. Never.
They've never even spoken with us. So in the 4 years that I'm leading this, 4.5 years I'm leading this organization, and it wasn't from a lack of trying, you know, I'm persistent, is that Eric Adams has never met with me once. His deputy, one of his commissioners actually was feeding him misinformation, and his chief advisor, who was not elected and has a lot of her own issues, was giving him misinformation as well. And even though we tried in vain to get them to understand with receipts, because I bring receipts, I don't BS. If I tell you something, I'm coming prepared so that I could back up what I'm saying. And I did that when I walked into her office with my vice president. And yet still the commissioner of labor relations, Renee Campion, then blocked us from getting to see Eric. And it's a problem because that communication, it's not just between organizations and leadership. It also extends to the office. Office of Labor Relations is understaffed. It serves 1.2 million people, retirees, active employees, their families, their healthcare plans. You could call Labor Relations and be on the phone on hold for an hour. And that's inappropriate. And this even was brought out in 2021. Councilwoman Rosenthal had said to the Office of Labor Relations on the dais, because they were testifying, how inappropriate it was that they were not adequately staffed to run their office to properly, timely answer questions for employees and retirees. And still today, I will attest to you in 2025 that has improved somewhat, but it has not improved greatly. And they still will not reply to our communications. It could take a long time. And they don't want to give you a straight answer either. The mess with Medicare Advantage, and the copays that they sacked us with, that's putting many of our retirees into medical debt. They don't want to answer those questions either. They don't even want to talk to us about how to fix it. So I'm looking forward to the next mayor having that kind of an open communication with us. And there was even a question in the chat about having a retiree advisor on your transition team and part of your team as well for any mayor that is now elected. To be able to put us, you have that advisory information from us.
Well, Mariana, you just made the pitch. You're the consigliere on healthcare advice. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? Who knows this better than you? I would say, you know something, one of the few times in my life, if you notice, I stayed quiet. 10 times more than me. And see, that's going to be the part of my administration. I'm not all-knowing. The fancy word for that is omnipotent. Delegate. So to you, Mariana, if you were willing to serve, I'd say, look, when it's a healthcare issue involving seniors and dealing with Medicare and the right to choose your own physician and the co-pays, got to be honest. I got to talk to Mariana. She's the expert. I'll take her advice, and then we'll move on it. The second thing, I have to chastise you, Mariana. When you dealt with Eric Adams, there was a place you could have met him, either Cipriani's downtown or Con Sofrito in the Bronx, but you would have to party till the break of dawn. Because the only place you could ever find Eric Adams is as the nighttime mayor till 4 a.m. when they turn the lights off. That was his biggest problem. He would conduct all of his meetings with his nightlife, and that means nothing would ever get done. So I'm
lucky
sorry.
if I could stay up that late now.
Exactly. Who can and then function the next day?
Absolutely. I'm going to get to a couple of more retiree questions. This is from Lori, Brooklyn. She says, the residents of Brooklyn along the newly created bus lane on Kings Highway between East 38th Street and Bedford Avenue have lost bus stops, causing seniors to have to walk many additional blocks to bus stops where bus stops were eradicated. These seniors, let me scroll down a little bit, as evidenced in the neighborhood app, are feeling more and more socially isolated because they simply cannot walk the 4 to 6 blocks to get the bus. Whoops. Why were these stops taken away, and how will you fix this very important quality of life issue? You may not know why it was taken away. I mean, if you do, great, but I'm not going to hold you to that. But if you have an idea on how we can fix these types of situations.
Yeah, I've seen this conflation of bus lanes and then bike lanes. I'd like to address that a second, because the biggest fear for senior citizens is stepping out into the Indianapolis 500 of these crazed e-bike drivers and moped drivers who are going upwards sometimes at 30, 35 miles an hour. And I know today the mayor was saying, 15-mile speed limit. Fanabla. There's no enforcement at all. There's no licensing. There's no registration. This is everything that Councilman Bob Holden has called for. And the mayor could have fought for this, but chose not to. So he says, it's 15 miles per hour. Big deal. Who's enforcing it? We were just up near the Brooklyn Navy Yard, where a woman who worked there as a senior citizen was like smashed coming off a bus by these e-bikes and these mopeds. And I've heard these horror stories again and again. Some people have lost their lives. Some people have been impaired, handicapped as a result. And I think that's an even bigger issue than extending bus stops. I'm not that familiar with that and the MTA, the way they rearranged the bus stop strategy. But I will tell you this. When they've put together the bus lanes with the bike lanes, many senior citizens refuse to even venture out because they either get clipped coming off the bus or they get clipped trying to come on the bus or cross the street or cross when the light is green. These guys on bicycles, they don't know the rules of the road at all. And guess what? They haven't been taught it. There's no enforcement. Fine them. If they're Grubhub, fine Grubhub, all the app people. Just give them fiscal pain, and maybe they'll abide by normal kind of standards and decency to make way for the seniors, especially because it's the seniors who are most terrified by these maniacs on their e-bikes and their mopeds.
I have two questions. I'm going to put them together, but they're from active workers whose one spouse is a retiree. So the United Federation of Teachers chose to do legislation that would go around the traditional collective bargaining and has proposed that the city council give a $10,000 to each of the 28,000 underpaid New York City paraprofessionals. Paras are these wonderful city employees that help the teachers with all sorts of critical issues. They really make the teachers' days a lot more tolerable, and they're able to handle students with special needs. But they are greatly underpaid. And instead of doing this at the collective bargaining table, the United Federation of Teachers did a bill in the city council that today has 48 sponsors out of 51. This would give them a $10,000 payment annually if it was approved by the council, which would be about $280 million a year that would have to be funded by the council, not through collective bargaining. However, that $10,000 check, they call it a respect check, is not pensionable. So these poor employees who are making, I believe, about $38,000 or $40,000 a year, this money would not be pensionable. So they're going to be, they would then, I guess, want to or not want to, they would be forced to stay employed in order to get this $10,000 because it's not pensionable and would not apply to their retirement. No other union member is being offered non-pensionable money. Would you, as mayor, be willing to sit down in the classroom with paras, who are the real backbone of the schools, to discuss a salary overhaul for paraprofessionals? Is the question from Marie.
I'd, as mayor, be more than happy to sit in many classrooms just as a normal course. I could learn a lot, you know. I'm 71 years old, but to be perfectly serious, I've been in classrooms and many times. We've actually, with Guardian Angels, we've been asked to come into those classrooms and those schools for dysfunctional children, children with issues, children who have become a harm to themselves, to the teachers and the other students, violent students, students who at any moment can be triggered off and commit horrible violence and disruption in the classroom. And you need the paraprofessionals there. They end up helping the teacher by dealing with the children who are going to distract the class, who have their own issues. Of course, they need to be given that wage level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Once I get in on January 1st, 2026, I got to tell you, I've met with the Citizens Budget Commission like 3 times. There's going to be a mess. There's going to be a lot of things that the Adams administration said was there that is not going to be there, not because of corruption, but because it was a re-election budget that was unrealistic. They didn't put anything in the rainy day fund, the reserves. We're facing tremendous fiscal problems. The case you're making is the same case that was made to me by the EMTs. You only get $39.
Next question.
Right, $39,000. They don't have parity with the other uniform services. I have some former Guardian Angels who are EMTs. It's like 12-hour shifts. constantly with the whistles and the lights and bells, going from one emergency to another emergency, sometimes emotionally disturbed people, fighting them when they're trying to help them. And they're not getting any respect. I think in many instances, the paraprofessionals in class, the EMTs, first thing we got to get them is respect. And then we got to get them up in pay parity. But, I could sound like Santa Claus here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to look into the bag. And remember, in Christmas, sometimes the stocking, if you weren't a good boy or girl, you had coal and wood in your stocking. I got to make sure Eric Adams hasn't left coal and wood in the stocking of monies that were supposed to be able to fund the basic running of government. But they deserve it. There's no doubt. And I know, having had the personal experiences, I don't think Zoran Mandami has had these experiences as a trust fund baby, protected. And I certainly know that Andrew Cuomo has not had those experiences.
So to answer Keith's question, how soon would you bring pay parity to FDNY EMS? I'm assuming your response to that would be as soon as you could.
Yeah, and look, I've seen what they do. It's incredible. And you talk about post-traumatic shock syndrome. They are exposed to things that most other uniformed services are not. Because remember, they're taking the patients on a gurney, putting them in the ambulance. They're having to continue to care for them as they bring them to the ER or the ICU. And a lot of times, whether it's a drug situation, overdose, the person wakes up, they're fighting, there's resistance. They get battered and bruised, the lights, the bells, the whistle. They don't even have a chance to get a cup of coffee sometimes. They're going to take a break, and then all of a sudden there's another 911 call. There are not enough wagons to service the 911 calls, and the men and women out there never get recognized. When's the last time you saw the EMTs get recognized?
Oh, I want to remind you, I was FDNY EMS, and I will tell you, my pension today is, and I'm retired long time. My pension today is still only $35,000. So it tells you what my colleagues are making today is still not anywhere near more than what I take home. So it's concerning because they've lost their ability to transition to other positions for promotions. We used to have a program where you could work for the city of New York in your job, let's say an EMS. The city would pay for your schooling, usually through a CUNY program, but it would be for like a doctor, for a nurse, or any type of a medical position that you could then promote to, but you would then owe the city X amount of years because you stayed, they put you through school. So today you're an EMT, but if you're taking a college program, you could then, promote to a doctor or a PA or an RN and continue within the medical field. Right now, since the merger of 1996 with FDNY, they really don't have a career path. And no one in the fire department has taken them and said, listen, since 1996, March of 96 was the merger. Their wages haven't gone up. They did get better ambulances. We did get uniforms that are better than what we had before, better equipment. We used to hold our oxygen tanks by the regulator. We didn't even have bags. But the pay is the critical issue. So even though I'm retired, these are my brothers and sisters in service, and I still see them fighting the same issues that we fought 20-something, 30-something years ago. So, and the paras are the same way. You will not, this is our concern, my concern. You will not attract workers to stay in the city. You will not keep them to stay in the city, especially if they're watching the city take away the retirees' healthcare benefits, having to use their pensions now on healthcare because the city reneged on its promise. And then who's going to want to work as an EMT or paramedic or even as a para when we're not paying our people a respectable wage? So it's unrealistic to say the day that you come in, you're going to end up giving them all a raise to the maximum of what they can do. But I think in consideration, candidates could consider putting in place to the goal of where they should be, and then in a stepped program, maybe implement those salaries so that they can live here and work here and want to stay here because they feel respected. I'll tell you, I don't think many city workers feel respected or appreciated. And I hope in some way that can change in the future.
No doubt. And there's always been, as you know, a bitter divide in the FDNY towards the EMTs, because a lot of times the fire trucks also go out on a run, like an EMT run, which they shouldn't have to do.
Right.
We need more EMTs. We need more wagons. Why are we sending out a whole ladder truck? Why are we sending out a whole firefighting contingent to deal with a medical issue that could be dealt with by EMTs? And I'll tell you, again, the personal experiences that I have. In many instances, when I was picked up and scraped off the ground by EMTs, and anybody who knows my life, you know that, quite a few times, I got better care in the wagon on the way to the hospital than I got in the ER when some intern was looking at me and I was looking at them and I was saying, oh my God, I happen to feel that maybe I'm the first person or second person they ever dealt with who had this kind of a medical emergency. The nurses and the EMTs knew more about my situation than sometimes the doctor who looked like Dr. Kildare, Dr. Casey with the schmuck, very professional. So I understand from having been out there, talk to them, watching what they have to deal with, that has to be prioritized. But again, I don't want to come in and sugar you up and be like a sugar daddy telling you, oh, I'll be able to do this, because I know the Eric Adams administration. I know how they've cooked the books. The Department of Budget. Ooh, I have a feeling that, it's like when you come back to a house that's been occupied by somebody else and you go room to room and you say, what happened to this? What happened to this? What happened to this? That a lot of it is not going to be where it was supposed to be. Not because anybody stole it, but because of incompetence, inefficiency, no transparency, no week to week. They have to give reports out. This way you can track it. It's sort of like what the cops have to do with CompStat. CompStat came about, and now they had to answer every week for what was going on in the precinct. Before that, they had to answer once a year. Same thing. Every week, you have to answer for your agency, and it's not just the commissioner, but all the deputies and everyone who is in charge of an integral part of the services that you're supposed to be providing to the people.
So we have two housing questions. Many retirees, city retired workers, are just above the income limits for traditional affordable housing. How would you address the missing middle seniors who fall through the cracks?
Well, especially if they're union members, of which many of yours obviously are, I think we go to the old standard. I opened up the first ever Republican headquarters in Brownsville. Never happened before. I grew up for a few years in Brownsville, 74 to 76, on Osborne and Hagerman. Across the street was a co-op. It's still in effect. It's really in good shape. If you close your eyes, except for some scaffolding, which unfortunately is a plague on the entire city. I'm back to when I was in the 60s, and my uncle, Jimmy Scavone, who was part of the Butchers Union, brought his wife, Lucy, my Aunt Lucy there, and they got a co-op because the union used its pension funds to help build the affordable housing for its union members. Co-op City, I can go right on down the list of all the places. We're not really promoting that and creating that any longer. There has to be stimulated, because it was always meant to help your own union members and other union members. Solidarity for other. Well, the number one need for solidarity is with affordable housing. So I would reapproach that with the unions and say, hey, let's invest pension funds into affordable housing. Let's find the space to do it. You can take care of union members and also make some money on your premium investment. Now, I'm not necessarily saying I know how to do it, but I know it was done before extraordinarily effectively all over the city, and then it stopped happening. And I think there are unions that would be more than happy to participate in that kind of a program.
And is that on that same line? How would you preserve and maintain NYCHA senior housing and Mitchell-Lama developments for retirees who depend on them?
Well, the NYCHA crisis is looming. I got bad news for everybody. The Trump administration does not like NYCHA. They want to cut. The new Secretary of not NYCHA, but Housing and Urban Development has come in, and already he's only had one visit. He couldn't be nastier and more draconian. They don't believe in public housing. And certainly the amount of public housing we have here in New York City, where we have over 300 developments throughout the city. I think we have about 177,000 apartments, 6,000 that are vacant, and about 535,000 tenants. So they want to cut. I want to revive. Jack Kemp, who used to be Secretary of the Housing and Urban Development for Ronald Reagan, Republican. He was a congressman, a great football player, quarterback. Came up with a great idea. For pennies on a dollar, you could own your own apartment. Understanding that government would have to subsidize a lot of it, but through ownership, there's benefits. Do you know when he proposed that, the Democrats thought that was a great idea? You know, shot it down, my fellow Republicans. I have the plan. I remember talking to, I call them Kempites, who believed in that after his death. It can be revived. It can be done. It's like co-op and condos, although not to that extent. You have to have a big investment in a co-op or a condo. But I think if you started that process and you had a few pilot programs, especially for the seniors, who many of them have been living there for decades, I think it could go a long way. It can go a long way. Now, is it the panacea? Is it the overall solution? No, you'll probably have to have a few other pilot programs going on. But public housing, NYCHA, is deteriorating as we speak. I remember the first public housing project was developed. It was low-rise in the Lower East Side by LaGuardia and FDR. I remember touring it, learning of the history. These buildings can't last forever. The maintenance is not going to maintain them to the quality level that the residents deserve. Queensbridge, which is the largest public housing project in the United States. It's in two along, in the shadow of the 59th Street Bridge. What do they call it? The Queensboro Bridge. What do they call it? The Ed Koch Bridge. Can they settle on one name, please? I've been in the basements rescuing cats there that were like locked in because the superintendents and maintenance people sealed the windows. And, cats are great at keeping the rats and mice away. They're dirt floors. Dirt floors.
Chelsea Elliott Housing.
They're taking the wrecking ball to it.
So these seniors, there's about 80 seniors in Chelsea Addition that were given notices by NYCHA that they had to be removed. They had to move, and that they could come back, but the renovations would take about 4 to 5 years. Knowing that construction always takes longer than what they estimate it will. These are seniors that this is their community. They know, the height of the curb if they're going to walk off the curb. These are older people, well into their 80s. There's a community of services there for them, including their peers that they've been with forever. And so now they want to move them. This is another issue coming out of this, but that they are now told if they don't leave, they will be evicted.
Yeah, no, I actually rallied with them downtown outside the court. They were going for a stay order because they were under order that demolition would occur and that they would be transplanted to a different living facility.
Right.
Well, these are older people. All they have in the world is that apartment. And you're telling them they're going to be displaced. Developers. I don't trust developers. You've seen my whole campaign. I've said I don't trust developers, realtors, and I don't trust billionaires. So there is no guarantee of them getting decent housing in the interim and then being returned to that location that's going to be privately developed. When I go up and down the East River, both sides, you have public housing projects. I know those developers are lusting to get their greedy hands on that. So under my administration, that stops. No more wrecking balls, no more displacement, unless you have an emergency like we had up in the Bronx off 138th, where the whole side, as you know, of that public housing project collapsed, the garbage chute, the gas explosion, and then you might have to evacuate people for their own safety. But there's no reason at the Elliott houses to do that. And I could see the fear, the fright, the hysteria. Shame on them. for
Yeah, a
doing
couple of
this.
them passed
Many of
away.
them elderly people.
Yeah, several of them passed away. Two after just having moved out of fear, and then just passed away right after that they had moved. It's very watching what's happening to both the retirees, New York City retirees, the healthcare. Throughout most of this debate, there really hasn't been, and it's not from a lack of trying. Again, our members, and we're again like 500,000 people strong. We've communicated with the people, the moderators of these debates. No one's really made senior or older New Yorker issues a focus to their campaign. And traditionally, it is this population that is the largest voting bloc in the city. So I don't understand why that's not been, a lot of the focus for this season. But
I'll tell you why. They come to you when they want your votes, because they know seniors vote. Let's face it, you know that. Hey, they come to you, oh, you got to vote. But then when it's your needs, it's not like, or in the words of maybe somebody that you're going to be talking with soon, everybody's got to die sometime.
Well, and Mr. Mamdani has not spoken to us. He did not agree to come today. And even after we spoke with one of his staffers a couple weeks ago, they won't get back to us on these issues at all.
Yeah, well, Mariana, you're not TikTok. You're not Gen Z. You're not millennials.
I have a TikTok channel.
You're not in the Zoran Mandami equation. I get people our age coming up to me going, you got to be on TikTok. You got to be on TikTok. I say, do you ever know what TikTok is? 2 years ago, it was a red Chinese attempt to take over our government. Now all of a sudden, you're saying, the victory is TikTok. Let's face it, our generation does not look at TikTok. And shame on Zoran and the Zoranistas who claim that they're there for the people. They're really not there for the older people at all. They give lip service, but their constituency is young. My constituency is broad, but I'm the oldest candidate running for mayor. And remember, I'm in the position that many of you have been in, because I've been in and out of hospitals so many times, scraped up by EMTs, ER, ICU. I've had not only shot with hollow point bullets, 5 times hollow point bullets on the orders of Gotti, the Gotti Jr., and the Gambino crime family. I've had stage 4 prostate cancer. I've had ileitis, colitis, Crohn's disease, 10-hour operation to save my life at Columbia Presbyterian. I know about the healthcare menace and the disaster that looms. And the other thing that I talk about that everybody is hush-hush about, dementia and Alzheimer's. How come nobody talks about that? It's growing.
That's an issue too with some of these with a lot of the things that's happening in the city, because my mother died from dementia. She had frontal temporal lobe dementia. She died very early, and in life, she should have lived a lot longer. She was extremely healthy. My mother was United Federation of Teachers retiree. She should never have had this disease. It's cruel and it's absolutely horrible. Older adults who have a cognitive impairment suffer from being able to communicate, stay in home, age in place. Their families suffer a great burden in taking care of them. A lot of the city is moving towards doing everything electronically. Older adults typically struggle from doing things like this in person. The city moves away. Like they stopped even sending them the stubs from your pension check. You have to log into your pension system in order to check your stubs. It is not older adult friendly, and it's very confusing to a lot of people. So in the last, 60 seconds or so, because I know you have to run, I'll give you this moment to close whatever it is that you'd like to share with everyone, because I know you've got someplace to be. But I do appreciate you coming on and answering our questions today.
Oh, and I will continue to. Look, I'm not a fair weather friend. I've got my boots on the ground. You convinced me, Mariana, tonight. Boy, you could be the best consigliere ever when it comes to healthcare and senior citizen needs, because you knew 10 times more than I'll ever knew in my lifetime. And that's the kind of positioning I'll take on all issues. whether it has a direct impact on seniors or retirees, or the younger generation that now is the majority. You know, the millennials and Gen Zers are the majority of the voters. They're the majority of the population, and they don't really care about us. I got to be honest with you, because they don't think of all the ramifications of what we had to think about for our parents and our grandparents. It's not the same connection. It's not their fault. It's just not the same connection. My job as mayor is to delve into those areas where government has never gone, the dark side. I'm telling you, my mother had dementia. My grandfather had Alzheimer's for 10 years, banging on the walls, screaming in bodies, cursing, looking at inanimate objects. I saw them suffer. I saw everybody around them suffer. Nobody is dealing with that. It is a looming crisis. Not only will I prioritize that, I will make sure vocational high schools are training home health care aides who are trained in this growing problem to deal with our parents and grandparents and ourselves. It's not just changing a bedpan and turning us over and changing the sheets. It's a lot bigger than that. And we got a lot of young men and women who could be trained to do that in a very professional way that'll keep us at home in our golden years, so that we don't get put away in a long-term nursing home care unit. You know what happened back in the lockdown and pandemic, or maybe, God forbid, put in a hospital. But thank you. Thank you for your time, Marianne.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate you coming to speak with us today and answer our retirees' questions. I know there was like a million more, but we got to what we could, and I appreciate it. Good luck with everything. And again, thank you for your time. For everyone else, Curtis is going to go because he's got someplace to be. There's a lot of people waiting to see him. And then Mr. Andrew Cuomo is up next. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you, Marianne.
You're welcome. Okay, everyone. So we're moving into the next stage of our show. We have Andrew Cuomo coming on next to speak with you and answer some questions. And as soon as I see that they are ready to go, we will bring them on stage. Let me just check and see if they're there. And stay tuned as well, because at the end, we'll be putting up a poll. After all, you've heard both candidates that have come to speak with you. We want you to answer a poll at the end. It's important that you get to hear both of their questions and hear the answers to many of the questions that you asked. So I see Mr. Cuomo is getting ready to come on. Hi, how are you?
How are you? Nice to see you again, Marianne.
You too. You too. Thank you very much for joining us. So this hour is yours, just like Mr. Curtis Sliwa had the previous hour. I understand you wanted to open up with some personal thoughts or statement, and then we'll go into some questions that retirees had sent to us to ask the candidates. So thank you for coming tonight, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
First, let me start with you, Mariana, because what you have done is just a great public service, right? Public service, and it's about leadership and public service. And God bless you, what you have done on your own. I mean, you started it all on your own. And just your drive and your initiative and your righteous indignation and your sense of principle. And you now put together a formidable group, and you're fighting the right fight, and good for you. Proud of you.
That's why they call me Wonder Woman.
Inspired by you. Robert Kennedy, one person can make a difference, right? Ripple of hope.
Absolutely.
Let me make a couple of just opening comments and then more, whatever you want to talk about. I have a long history in government. I started 18 years old, was an advisor to a fellow named Cuomo. He didn't pay me much. Ran for mayor, lost for mayor to Ed Koch, 1977. Became governor in 82. I worked with him while he was governor. Then Manhattan District Attorney's Office under Bob Morgenthau, who was a legend and a beauty. And then I built homeless housing in Brooklyn, Queens, 1,000 units total. And then I joined the Clinton administration. And I was HUD secretary, then New York Attorney General, then governor. I'm worried about New York City, and that's why I'm running for mayor. I'm worried about the fundamentals of New York City. Post-COVID, you lose over 1 million people, you lose wealth, you lose businesses, you lose jobs. Just feels like we are a place of the past as opposed to a place of the future. When I was HUD secretary, HUD does cities, housing and urban development. And I was in every state, I visited hundreds of cities. But after a while, you get a feel for the city. It's like when you walk into somebody's house, you get a feel for them, and the situation they're in. You get a feel for a city. The city has a bad feel. It just has a negative feel. And it's on the numbers also. Crime is not down, crime is up. New jobs are way down. Confidence in the city, way down. So a lot of retirees moved to Florida. That was the trajectory. I'll retire and move to Florida. Grandpa retires, moves to Florida. Except they're skipping the retirement part and just going to Florida. So I'm worried about the city. My agenda starts with public safety. I want to hire 5,000 cops and 1,500 in the subways. You have to hire 5,000 cops just to keep the cops from quitting. We have the highest attrition rate in history because we have the lowest number of police in modern political history. So they're so understaffed. They're making everybody work weekends, etc., and people are quitting. Plus, they're demoralized because they get treated unfairly, in their opinion, and in my opinion. So start with public safety. Second is we have to build more affordable units, and I want to build 50,000 in the first year. I feel confident about that. As I said, I was HUD secretary, and I built affordable housing all across the country. And as governor, I built a lot of things. I built a new LaGuardia Airport, new Kennedy Airport, new Mario Cuomo Bridge, new Kosciuszko Bridge. Not Kosciuszko Bridge, by the way. It's the Kosciuszko Bridge. Kosciuszko.
Say that word.
Which nobody says. And I was at the bridge announcement with the Polish ambassador. And I said Kosciuszko. And I thought he was going to hit me with a chair. Kosciuszko, General Kosciuszko. New Second Avenue subway, etc. So I know how to build housing. I feel confident about the building. And then third, we have to get jobs coming back to New York City because it's about jobs. And we can't be anti-business. I had worked to bring Amazon to New York. Amazon says they'll come. They're going to open a headquarters. And this far left movement was against corporations, and Amazon left. That can't happen. My opponent, main opponent, is Zoran Mondani. He's a two-term assemblyman. He passed 3 bills. He missed 80% of the votes. He's never had a job. He's just turned 34 years old, and he is an advocate. He's about political ideology. He's democratic socialist. It's about rhetoric. He said the job of mayor is to be a messenger. No, the job of mayor is to be a manager, is to get things done.
And
His
a little bit about that, actually, since that was one of the fortes that you had was in housing, because affordable housing is one of the concerns of many of our retirees. So I'll ask you a couple of the questions that we asked before to Mr. Sliwa was, how would you preserve and maintain NYCHA housing and Mitchell-Lama developments for retirees who depend on them?
Well, HUD Secretary, I was in charge of NYCHA. NYCHA was one of the public housing authorities. NYCHA was the best public housing authority in the country at one time. Now it's one of the worst. The worst was Chicago Housing Authority. And I knocked that down and I rebuilt it. NYCHA, there's actually a great opportunity, which we're not taking advantage of, which is you have a lot of green space on NYCHA.
Right.
The way it was built is what they call super blocks. They put two blocks together and they built high and they built dense, but they thought by leaving green space that somehow balanced the density. But you have a lot of green space, so you have a lot of alternatives to actually develop the green space with new units and use the revenue to do the rehabilitations. When I was governor, we passed what's called PACT and RAD, which are two redevelopment projects for options for NYCHA, but they're very slow. I'm not a big fan of redevelopment. A lot of these buildings are 60 years old, and a lot of times it's cheaper and better just to knock it down and build new. But NYCHA has to be a top priority because it's a disaster. It's just a disaster. Mitchell-Lama is just a question of financial subsidies for those that are in trouble. And that can be either city or state loan or grant to keep the affordability.
So in one of the instances we mentioned earlier, the Elliott Chelsea houses in Manhattan, in the Chelsea area, they are looking at demolishing those buildings, but it would end up unseating the retirees that live in the associated housing. They're over 80 years old, and the renovation, they're saying they're going to move them. The renovation would take about 5 years. And they're gravely concerned because it would move things away, not keep everything in the same proximity that they're used to. Many of them have mobility issues, and they have colleagues or friends that are in the same building that all help each other. Their aides all help each other to get together. Could it not be possible to do a renovation on that building? Let's say floor by floor, maybe they can just displace them to the next floor above rather than completely demolish the buildings and move them all away?
I don't know. I'd have to see the configuration. Chicago Housing Authority, which is worse than NYCHA and more dense. We did it building by building, so you'd be moved one building away, and one building away is 50 feet. I never heard of knocking down multiple buildings and moving tenants a distance. That's problematic.
Yeah.
I never did a project like that.
So another housing question that we had was many retired city workers are just above the income limit for traditional affordable housing. How could you address the missing middle seniors who fall through the cracks?
I think you have to adjust the income bands to begin with. I think the income bands are too low. Especially if you're on fixed income, the bands are too low.
Right.
It just doesn't work anymore. So I would raise the income bands.
Yeah, definitely retirees are on fixed incomes. I'll tell you, 2/3 of DC 37 retirees make under $35,000 a year. 1/3 of them under $12,000 a year. Many of our retirees end up living with relatives because they can't afford to live on their own in housing. I'll tell you, I was in Manhattan just past week, and I was looking for an apartment, and apartments are extremely expensive. Even the doorman, I was talking to a group of bellmen that are HTC workers. They were telling me that some of them are renting an apartment, and there's 6 guys to an apartment just in order to be able to live in Manhattan. So it is definitely a concern. So on senior services, many retirees live on fixed incomes, and they're struggling to keep up with the cost of living. What steps could you take to ensure that city services for seniors, particularly retired public servants, would remain accessible and adequately funded? You know how they always do this crazy budget dance, and they'll like pit the retirees against the culturals or something, but that always ends up on the chopping block is retirees.
Well, the retirees, it's always the same. The retirees are easy for most unions. Some unions, the retirees vote. By the way, that's something that should have been changed. Retirees should have the right to vote in union elections.
Yeah, there's only about 2 unions that could do that right now, to my knowledge.
Yeah, but I'd love to work with you on that.
Make me your labor commissioner.
Yeah, well, but I was thinking about it when, the first time we met and we were talking about this. Why wouldn't a union membership, a current union membership, vote to allow the retirees to vote?
I can tell you.
But you're going to be a retiree one day. You're a current member.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm going to be retired one day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, should we let retirees vote? Yes, because when I'm retired, I want to vote. So
you'll appreciate this being an attorney, sir. Under New York State Taylor law and New York City Office of Collective Bargaining Law, unions can only represent those in their bargaining unit for wages, hours, and work conditions. And it goes back to a case called Pittsburgh Plate Chemical Workers versus Pittsburgh Plate Glass in the 70s, right after Medicare was approved, that even the NLRB came out in this case as well. And if you ever get a chance to listen to it, you could actually listen to the oral arguments online. I'll send them to Stephanie later. The unions can only represent and collectively bargain for people in their union. And since retirees are no longer in unions, this is what happened in the city of New York, that the management ended up with the insurance companies convincing them that privatizing a federal public health benefit of Medicare, one of the greatest civil rights achievements ever, to privatize, where they were told, hey, if you do this, we're going to give you the money we would have spent on those retirees and stick it in your welfare fund. Now, do the unions definitely need more money? Yes, I get it. They do, to fund these benefits, but that's through collective bargaining. I don't have a seat at that table. I can't bargain because I'm not in their union. I'm not in the unit, and that's by state and city collective bargaining law. But we should have an advisory capacity, because if someone like myself was there that could have said, don't do this. This is a federal public health benefit. You would never want to do that. Medicare Advantage that they were trying to put us in is the default plan in that blueprint from the Heritage Foundation known as Project 2025. Why would we do this? It provides people only a narrow network of doctors and hospitals. And if you read the papers and the Times, you'll see that doctors and hospitals around the country are dropping this plan. So it educated a young union person to their labor history. I have a labor degree. I have 2 degrees. One, I'm a culinary arts, and you probably didn't know, and I also have a labor degree. So I could have educated them. Don't do this. There's a great labor history where union leaders worked with President Lyndon Johnson in passing the Medicare-Medicaid Act in 1965. I know you're shaking your head. I should have been an attorney. My mother wanted me to be a lawyer. But this is what they needed, was someone like, I don't know, there's no grandma or grandpa of labor. I could be the grandma of labor, but there should be someone in an advisory capacity that could have helped out them not to do this and push back on this for-profit healthcare. The people I grew up with in labor always said, never privatize healthcare, never privatize Medicare. And yet, unfortunately, these young people didn't know that. And I think if they had someone that could have told them, we wouldn't have been fighting them. But unfortunately, I can't be in their union due to state and city laws. But I think in an advisory capacity, there should have been something in place like that.
Yeah, but Mariana, why can't retirees just vote
for the
president? Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you maybe why. Some unions allow that, but in some unions, like for example, the United Federation of Teachers, where you can vote, you have 190,000 active workers. You have almost 90,000 retirees. In some smaller unions, like in the fire service, you actually have more retirees than you do active union members. That could create a problem because the needs of a retiree are different than the needs of an active worker. And that might be the reason why. I mean, we could have that legal conversation, but
that is an interesting conversation.
It is.
Not for tonight, but it's an interesting conversation.
It is. So I'll ask you a few more questions.
Okay.
So a couple of the transportation issues our retirees brought up that you hope maybe you'll be familiar with is Access-a-Ride. Access-a-Ride remains an unreliable form of transportation for retirees. How could your administration reform it to make it truly more responsive with shorter wait times and better scheduling?
You know, the state basically was involved on the reimbursement side. It was an annual budget issue. I had a cursory involvement with Access-a-Ride because there was so many complaints about the service and how it was operated.
Yeah.
But it's something that I would look into. But I would be open to any reform of it. It is uniformly despised and extraordinarily expensive.
Yes. And not efficient at all.
Yeah.
Not efficient at all. So we could work on that one too. Would you consider piloting a community-based microtransit or a shuttle program for older adults in areas with poor public transit coverage?
100%. I did that a lot in upstate New York. You run into that all the time. You know, we're a little spoiled downstate.
Mm-hmm.
But that happens all the time upstate New York, and we did that with some success.
Yeah, that would be helpful. The para question, paraprofessionals from the United Federation of Teachers and Keith Lawrence from FDNY EMS. They both ask about a pay parity. Well, Fidney EMS workers are asking for a pay parity. Paras, Marie is asking so they're underpaid workers. Paras work in the classroom with teachers and help children. There's currently a bill in the city council that would give them $10,000 a year. It would have to be funded by the council, and it's about $280 million a year to do that. But that money is not pensionable. Me being the labor person that I am, I would rather see that income come up, but it be a pensionable increase in their salary, not just a check. I know they call it respect check, but in my personal opinion, and you don't have to weigh in on that opinion, but my personal opinion is it's not respectful to give them a salary increase. That's not technically a salary increase, but it literally ends the day they retire and isn't part of their pension. It doesn't make their pension any more livable. And the paras would like to see that their wage increase. The FDNY EMTs and paramedics, they're looking for parity with their police, fire, sanitary, with the uniformed services. You may have heard me say I'm retired from FDNY EMS. My pension is $35,000. I retired 20 years ago. So for them to still be making not just more than what I'm making now as entry pay is insane at the risk that they take. Recently, Governor Hochul vetoed a bill that would have changed the staffing for officers. And we just lost a couple years ago, Allison Russo, to a tragic stabbing death in Astoria. I worked with Allison when I was in the Bronx, and we were both working in the street out of Jacoby. I was actually in the city in Staten Island at the time, and when she died, I drove right to Queens to my old station. To see that there's a concern in workplace safety for these types of workers, and then not paying them enough, that's contributing to the reason why our head count is down and why people don't stay on this job. And then watching the city of New York reduce benefits or threaten retirees in the last 4 years, where we're still in court fighting to maintain what was promised to us healthcare wise, is, I think, contributing to all of that. We need to respect our workers, treat them well, and pay them a livable wage that they want to work for the city of New York. So these are the two questions. Where do you stand on FDNY EMS pay parity with uniformed? And are you familiar with the paraprofessionals from the United Federation of Teachers needing an increase in their pay as well?
Yeah, I'm familiar with both. I announced that I would support the para teachers increase.
Mm-hmm.
I did that at the teachers union meeting. EMT, it is a disgrace what we pay them. It is a disgrace. And you know, I was governor during COVID, and I made it a point to go to emergency rooms, go to nursing homes, go to hospitals, because everybody was so scared. So I wanted to show up myself, just to show people it can't be that dangerous if he came himself, right? And I took a lot of rides with EMS workers.
Mm-hmm.
I could not do what they do, not for any amount of money. And I am with them 100% on pay parity.
I thank you for that. Keith, I hope you heard that. Question, how would you look at the MWBE program for the city to ensure small businesses are getting paid and fair share of their contracts?
Yes. It's a problem in the city. It wasn't on the state. I passed the highest MWBE goal in the United States of America. And I'm very proud of that, 35%. The city then copied it. But the city has those issues. We never had those issues on the state side. So I think that's just management.
Absolutely. Question. Would you commit to including your senior nutrition and food security metrics in your administration's annual budget and performance reporting?
I don't know what that means.
Would you commit to including senior nutrition and food security metrics in your administration's annual budget and performance reporting? I'm assuming this is from one of our employees in senior food access. I'll ask another question that was also sent. What would be your plan to ensure equitable access to fresh, nutritious food in food desert neighborhoods where many retirees live?
I'll tell you what my plan would not be. My plan would not be to open one government-run grocery store in each borough.
We already have those, sir. I don't know why anyone didn't know that.
Unbelievable. The food deserts I did something during governor that I would bring to scale. I couldn't really get de Blasio to cooperate. We have upstate farms that produce everything. Everything. Um, every kind of produce, every kind of green produce, dairy, everything.
Okay.
And I said, I want to make a connection between the New York City food deserts and the upstate producers. And there'll be no sales tax involved. The state will facilitate the transportation, et cetera. And we did it, but de Blasio and I never really worked that well together, to be frank. Food deserts, there are now city subsidies to locate grocery stores in food deserts. They say they're not steep enough to actually subsidize the differential, especially when you consider the loss. But I would make that program work and marry it with the upstate produce program, which we call New York Grown, because it's literally better produce and it's certified by the state of New York as organic. So it actually means something. And you get it the next day. It literally comes the next day.
Like a food box delivery, you mean?
Yeah, because we drive it down.
That's fantastic. We could probably even use that for school meals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I want to ask you a question about widows, children, widows, widowers, and our children who lost a spouse or a parent in the line of duty. Under the de Blasio administration, and then continuing into the Adams administration, there was a misuse, even before that, to be quite honest with you, of a misuse of a fund called the Stabilization Fund. That fund was funding the Widows and Children's Welfare Fund benefits. It's a cost to the city of approximately $3 million a year. A literal pittance in the grand scheme of like $120 million, $120 billion city budget. And while the city of New York pays for the health care, major medical hospitalization for this population, they're leaving this welfare fund benefit, prescription vision and dental, to be funded by this fund that is now bankrupt because it was misused. And the burden now falls to the unions to take care of. Many of those line of duty widows, widowers, and children fall under the uniformed forces, and their unions like UFOA or EMS, their unions are small. Even UFOA, PBA, some of the captains, lieutenants, sergeants unions. That $3 million cost to fund that benefit now, after November, will no longer be funded by the city of New York, who's been paying that since this fund is basically bankrupted. And it will put the burden back on the shoulders of the unions. Under your administration, would you take care of that approximately $3 million currently debt to fund those benefits for someone who lost a loved one in the line of duty serving the city?
Pay the $3 million.
I don't understand why this is so difficult for this current administration to be putting people through this.
$3 million. So they dropped that at the table, at the budget table, $3 million. Fall through the crack.
And not all of these people that this affects are 9/11, but a lot of them are. And they've been dealing with this issue for a very long time. You do have other spouses, other widows and children that lost their loved one in the line of duty that were not 9/11, but there is a large number of them that are. So thank you for answering that question, because that came in from several of our retirees who still have concerns. With the World Trade Center program, that's also a concern. This is why we also fight for our healthcare. Is the World Trade Center program, everyone's mantra was never forget. And it seems like we're forgotten. I am a 9/11 responder. I go through treatment every 30 days at a hospital. My treatment runs this national program of approximately $45,000 a month. It's a lot. And for many of us, this World Trade Center program is defunct. And that's responders, by the way, are covered by that program. Survivors, which were our civilian workers who worked in buildings, like my retiree Roberta, they have to use their own healthcare plan to pay for World Trade Center related healthcare. And when the city was looking to force us into a Medicare Advantage plan, that became a problem because doctors, hospitals, cancer specialists especially would not accept Medicare Advantage. So I wanted to make that point and it's really just a statement, not a question for you, but to make that point that our city said it would never forget us. And sometimes it feels like it has, especially when this National World Trade Center program isn't working. And we rely upon the promise of our city paid healthcare plan and the benefits that we have to basically keep us alive. So I'm going to go to another question on transportation. How would your administration coordinate with the MTA to improve safety for seniors, pedestrians, especially around major intersections and transit hubs?
MTA meaning what, on the buses?
Mm-hmm. So coordinating with MTA to improve safety for senior pedestrians, especially around intersections and transit hubs, bus stops, that sort of thing. We have a lot of places where buses, for example, a retiree had left us a question I can scroll back to, that there was a concern that they moved the bus stop several blocks away and they have to walk like 6 blocks to get to the bus now. And many of them aren't able to get there.
It would have to be really traffic rules and regulations. I don't think the MTA actually has on-site personnel at intersections beyond the main stations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and absolutely not enough staff. A question from Linda from Staten Island is, how are you planning to improve the transportation on Staten Island? SIM buses, SIRR. Housing continues to grow in Staten Island, but the buses are frequently not dependable, and the SIRR platforms are not all handicapped accessible and are in need of a lot of work.
The platforms are terrible. The accessibility, there is a plan to increase the accessibility, the rate of accessibility, but the platforms are terrible. I think we have to do much more on express buses.
Mm-hmm.
I put in an express bus route lane that goes over the Verrazano all the way to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. That works very well, but we need more buses. And Staten Island, I think, is going to see continued growth, and there is going to be more of a need.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. Here's a question from Lori from Brooklyn. The residents of Brooklyn along the newly created bus lane on Kings Highway between East 38th and Bedford have lost bus stops, causing seniors to have to walk many additional blocks as bus stops were eradicated. These seniors, as evidenced in the neighborhood app, are feeling more and more socially isolated because they simply can't walk the 4 to 6 blocks to get to the bus stop. What kind of a fix could you implement for this very important quality of life issue?
Make them add more bus stops.
More bus stops.
We can do that.
You hear that, Lori?
We can do that.
You could do that. Add more buses with more stops. I answered Keith's question.
We can do a lot more than we have been doing. You know, there's an attitude in New York City government that like, oh, we can't get anything done anymore. Right. Everything is too hard. We're talking about a bus stop. We're talking about $3 million. You know, give me a break. It's the attitude that government is incompetent or dysfunctional or just limited. No, it's not. You're self-limiting in life.
It just takes a little ingenuity to do. Look, if I believed everyone that told me 4.5 years ago, I couldn't fight back being forced off my promised healthcare plan, I would be forced into a predatory privatized Medicare Advantage plan that my doctors and hospitals didn't accept, and prior authorization that would wrongly delay and deny me care, and many of us would be dead. I can't. My mother always used to say to me, my first word was no, or why, or because, and it wasn't mom.
Yeah, but there's something, but you're right. It's the inquiring mind. And I find that more in New York City than on the state side, frankly, or even the federal side.
Right.
It's just everything is so hard and everything is impossible and everything is beyond us. And everybody rolls their eyes at the simplest thing.
So now you're a mayor. Let's say you get elected and you're a mayor. In the first 30 days, what would be some of your priorities?
First 30 days, we have to start hiring the cops right away. Just so New Yorkers, and there's something about seeing additional police on the street that'll make people, I think, give a confidence boost. We have to break up the police officers in the subway where 4 of them are talking to each other or on their cell phone. 1 cop on every train. We can do in the first 100 days. The first 100 days, we can get at least 30,000 units of housing back on the market.
Right.
There have been warehoused, rent-stabilized apartments. What happened when de Blasio did the freeze the rent, which Mondami wants to do, when you told the landlords you weren't covering their costs, they pulled the units offline. And they're still sitting there. So we can get them back online. I'd want to start that right away. And affordable housing, I would put forth, there's about 1,000 possible sites where we can build affordable housing. And I would put out all 1,000 and make it a mayoral priority to start bidding, contracting, and getting those projects going with apprentice programs, et cetera. Show the energy. Also in the first 100 days, just a massive cleanup effort. Just clean the city. Rudy Giuliani said something once. They said, what was one of the first things you did when you became mayor? He said, I painted all the garbage trucks white. They said, what? Yes, I painted the garbage trucks white. They said, why did you do that? Because I wanted people to see clean, new trucks coming down the road, so there was a sense that something was happening. But just clean up. I also have a proposal where I want, I know the MTA very well, too well. New York City now does the safety in the MTA with the NYPD. I also want to do the capital construction, which is years late, years. And there's like $5 billion sitting there. Take over the capital construction and the cleanliness. Clean the subway stations. Clean the trains. Which we did during COVID, by the way. It's not impossible. During COVID, remember during COVID when they said you could get it by touch?
Yes.
The next day, nobody showed up for work. Not nurses, not doctors, not utility workers, because they couldn't take the subway because they were afraid of the touch. Mm-hmm. And we almost had a collapse because we were on the brink to begin with. I found a company. We sprayed every subway station, every subway car, every night with a virucidal mixed with a cleaning agent.
I remember this. They used to show videos. Actually, you showed the videos of them steam cleaning the trains.
Mixed with a lemon scent. So
it didn't smell like bleach?
That's right.
They smell clean and pretty.
Yes, but we did that every night. So, you can do these things.
Yes, it is definitely possible in large cities. For example, Washington, D.C., their metro stations are very clean. When I used to visit Japan back in the 80s, Japan's train stations, another very large country with an underground subway, very, very, you could literally sit on the floor in Japan's subways. So yeah, I would definitely agree with you that the subway could be cleaner, than they are now. The city council, we're getting questions because some newer retirees are jumping on, asking about your support for Intro 1096. So, Intro 1096 is our city council legislation to protect our health care, protect the Medicare that was promised to retirees. We even have a bill up in the state that will be reintroducing come January for all state workers to protect their health care benefits. Whatever they earned in employment, they should maintain through retirement and help keep that. So when you are mayor, would you work with the city council to help us support that 1096? And what that could look like, for example, we just asked Mayor Adams put a executive order and a letter of necessity to the speaker to stop the horse carriages in Central Park, but he's not doing that for people. And while I could appreciate the issue of protecting the horses in Central Park area, he should do the same thing for people. What could you do to get the city council to pass this legislation?
I would support you 100%.
Yes,
And we
so
will
did
get it
everyone
done.
hear that?
But not only will I support you, I don't do a lot of things well in life, but I know how to make government work. I know how to make change. I passed national first legislation. I built all sorts of projects. I know how to get things done. We will get this legislation done. You were wronged. You were wronged. You were taken advantage of. You were not at the table. They wanted money, and they took it out of your pocket. That is what they did. That is what they did. Forget Medicare Advantage, retiree. That's not what this was. This was theft. It was theft. You were not there. They wanted $600 million. We know where we can get it. We'll take it from the retirees. Ha ha, and the retirees can't say anything about it.
Right.
It was theft.
They were literally balancing the budget on the backs of retired civil servants.
Yes, that's what they did. And it's not a technical issue. It's a basic equity issue. You worked under one set of conditions, promises, covenants, and then they violated them because they could get away with it.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Not only are we going to support, I'm not going to support you, you're going to support me, and we're going to do it.
We're going to do it together, right, sir?
Yes.
You made my retirees very, very happy. Where's Merritt? Merritt says, thank God. They've been fighting for 4.5 years to do this, just for someone to say, I hear you.
Yeah. No, it's basic. It's a basic. It's a basic right and wrong. Sometimes it's simple. We just make it complicated. This is basic right and wrong.
Would you consider having a senior liaison as part of your cabinet?
Liaison to senior citizens?
Mm-hmm, like a retiree liaison, someone who can share with you retiree issues and concerns, like the things that we brought up today.
Yes, retiree liaison. I would, yes, because I'm 67. I think I can be my own senior liaison.
Wait, then you should be a member of the New York City retirees.
I know, I just have to retire first.
Yes, I know the feeling. I would like to retire too. Absolutely. Let's see if I have another couple of questions for you. How would you
have a
improve
plug-in for
coordination between city agencies and local food providers so seniors don't face service gaps or redundant paperwork? Let me read that again since I stuttered. How would you improve coordination between city agencies and local food providers so seniors don't face service gaps or redundant paperwork?
What are we talking about there?
In this situation, I guess you're talking about where we have your meal programs for elderly. Your meal programs for elderly. Your homebound service.
Yeah. And what is the issue now?
That seniors are facing service gaps and redundant paperwork and filling out how to get access to these programs. It's just streamlining, I believe.
It's just streamlining. Because everything in the city is redundant. I just spent a couple of hours going through the HPD forms to get a building application. Forget it. I wouldn't even try. I'd give up.
And, and that's another concern too, is because much of this is done online, and many older New Yorkers either don't have internet, don't have computers, don't have smartphones. If I tell you how many of my retirees still use a flip phone, Star, it's concerning for them not being able to do this. There's not a person that they can call, or go to. Like this Meal on Wheel program that they're having this issue with. If there's not a person that they can communicate with, or they have to go through multiple offices to resolve this issue, they'll just give up out of futility.
Yeah. No, but that's basic government 101, right? That's just streamline it, make it work.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Let's see. Would you expand reduced fare programs for retirees who are not yet 65 but are living on limited city pensions? So I mentioned that 2/3 of DC 37 retirees, for example, make under $35,000. 1/3 of them make under $12,000. Yes, still alive. And I'll tell you why, is many of them are in their late 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, early 90s, and they retired. Like even our top paid police and fire from 1980 made a $15,000 salary. And when they retired in 1980, yes, we paid cops and firefighters $15,000 in 1980. Today, they took a 50% pension in 1980. Today, that pension is only $26,000. So would your administration consider expanding reduced fare programs for retirees who are not yet 65 but living on small pensions? And that could be those that are not 90, but those who are like paras or EMT peoples.
Yes, I got it now. Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see. My other question. New York City retirees, would you commit to expanding or promoting the senior citizen rent increase exemption known as SCREE or disability rent increase exemption known as DRE programs, and ensuring that they're automatically applied where eligible?
Yes.
That would definitely help the rising taxes for people who are low income. I think I may have asked you, would you preserve and maintain NYCHA senior housing and Mitchell-Lama developments? I think we talked about that before, because one of the housing projects I was telling the unions that they were not familiar with was Elecchester, which was a local 3 community in Queens. Do you remember?
Yes, it's still there. It's still going great. It's a whole community.
Yes. It would be something we've talked to a couple of the unions about doing stuff like that, but it would take using union gumption to take that step back into union housing so that they had the ability to live in the city, even as starter homes, and getting them started. So yeah.
But why not? Elecchester, Local 3, they did a great job with it. 1199 did it at one time.
Right.
I don't know why the teachers union never did it.
Yeah, I don't know either. After then, Mr. Van Arsdale, ever not seen unions get involved in investing in that kind of a structure, which was built by union labor, residents by union labor, and it helped get union labor on their feet. They had a community, they had green space, there was a movie theater, they had their own little community. To help union workers maintain a home, start a family, and be able to get to work.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, Mariana. That was done.
It was
What was
vision.
that? The 60s. When was that?
Yes. A while ago.
Yeah, we did that in the 60s, but we can't do it now. You know,
We can do it now.
yes,
We
there's
could do
just
it
a
now.
lack of like leadership and intelligence and creativity and ambition. You know what it is? Risk. It's risk. The elected officials don't want to take the risk of doing something big, because if it goes bad, then you have a big problem. So don't take a risk.
Well, and think about that too. If active workers are living in union housing, that would also help out with your childcare issue, because as mom and dad went to work, the union workers' children are in a daycare that's in their own community, right? Think of like a cross between union housing and North Shore Towers. You have your own
Yes,
community, right?
yes. And
Isn't
but
that a vision?
that was the Elecchester vision in the 60s. We just forgot what we once knew. That's the problem here.
Yeah. So I know you've only got a few minutes left. I want to give you this time to say anything you'd like in closing. I'm very grateful that you came to spend this hour with us and answer some of our retirees' questions. They filled up our chat, and we had a Google Doc sheet that they had filled out over the last 2 weeks. So we got to a large chunk of their questions, and I appreciate you taking the time to share your vision with them.
Well, the pleasure was mine. I want to thank all of you for your service and what you did to build the greatest city on the planet. I grew up in a household of public service. I know the sacrifice that it takes. There were other things you could have done with your life. You could have made more money. You could have had an easier job. So thank you for your public service. Mariana, thank you for what you're doing on behalf of so many people, fighting the good fight, and we will get it done. I believe in government. I believe in the skill set of government. I got into a little trouble today because I was attacking my opponent, Mamdami's lack of experience. And it offended me. It offends me. Quick vignette, I'll leave you with this. I go to teach at the one semester Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And somebody says to me, why would there ever be a school of government? I said, what? I said, why would there be a school of government? I said, because government is a science. It is an art form. These are highly skilled professionals who are educated and understand what they're doing. Government is an honorable profession that requires real skill and knowledge. Right. And yeah, you want to be mayor of New York? Yes, you have to know government. It's not all politics. It's not rhetoric. It's the art form of managing government and understanding the programs and how to make them work together. And maybe that's the answer to the question I was asking you before. Why do we find everything so hard? Because we're losing the expertise that is government. I know government. I spent my whole life, I did one thing. I know government, federal, city, state.
Oops. Did I lose him? I think I lost him. Wait. Stephanie, no, Michael, are you still there? Did he lose his internet? Mr. Cuomo, I think I lost you. Michael, if you can see if he's, or Stephanie, see if he's able to get back on. I really want him to finish. I'm going to stick around. I'm not going anywhere. I got you back.
I am sorry. I am sorry. No, my thing went dead.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I just wanted to say I believe in government. I believe in the science of it. I know how to make change. I know how to make government work for people. This city needs help. I know I can make a difference. And this is going to be a very close election. It's very political in that there's a lot of issues. You know, it's about Israel. It's about Palestine. It's about like everything except making New York City better, right?
Better.
Or what's the plan for New York City? But it's going to be a close election. I'd very much like to have your support. You know government, you respect the government, you dedicated your life to government. I've done the same. And I hope you support me. And I hope you're well, and I hope you feel grateful and happy with the contribution that you guys have made to make this great city what it is.
We say all the time that we not only built this city and we built our unions after 9/11, we rebuilt this city, and we're still in this for the long haul. Many of 3/4 of our retirees still live in New York, and they are very dedicated New Yorkers and want to make sure that everything that they earned and they helped build stays here. So we appreciate that. For being your vision and you talking with us today. So keep that vision. It's not going anywhere, and don't
Right.
let all the noise cloud you. Keep focused.
Thank you. I will. God bless you.
You have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Ciao.
Thanks. Thank you. Ciao.
So everyone, you should see a poll posted to our page, to our YouTube channel. It was really wonderful to be able to have both of these candidates come on and talk to you and answer all of the questions. You have sent us millions of questions, and we did ask them some of the hard ones on the issues that basically concern you as a retiree. I want you to know from us, from me directly, that both Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo both signed the pledge to protect retiree benefits. And those were the three issues that we raised, right? It was that they would not force us into Medicare Advantage, that they would help pass that bill that we had that rolls back the copays, that they would not they would speed up the reimbursement time statutorily, that would reimburse your Medicare B premiums, and that they would also protect your dependents when you pass away. Your health care dies the day you die, and that this would give a grace period to your your dependents to secure health care after you pass away. So because if this doesn't get addressed, and this hasn't been addressed for decades, then you would be left without health benefits, your dependents, until they knew, because in some cases, they're just so overwhelmed with dealing with the loss of you that they're not able to They don't know that they just lost their health care too. And to put that burden on a dependent is really wrong. So those were the 3 issues. And then we also said, please keep open the open communication between us, because if you're speaking with us as a candidate, I want to know that you're going to continue to speak with us as a elected, right? And I'm going to tell you right now that one of the 3 won't speak with us. His office spoke with, we had one person spoke with us a couple weeks ago, doesn't follow back. Multiple calls, multiple emails. Our government liaison, the same thing. They want nothing. So if a candidate won't talk to you as a candidate, they're not going to talk to you when they're elected. You literally had 2 candidates come on today, not only sign a pledge to protect your health care, because I know Long Beach, you're in here screaming, where are they on this issue? I said that from the get-go, where they are. These are the only 2 that support you. And so now we can hold a few more live conversations over the next couple weeks. Tomorrow, Saturday, starts early voting. And now it's up to you, because you literally heard how they feel about your issues, about your food insecurity, about housing, about transportation, about accessoride, about your health care. This is what you wanted, and you had a one-on-one personal conversation with the candidate. I mean, that's just, people don't get that. And we wanted that with all of them. We had that debate in April, and we invited everybody. You know, many of them came, some of them chose not to. Some of them chose to not even talk to us at all. And so we're going to keep on fighting for this, working on this in the city, working on this in the state, because our state retirees need our protection as well. And that solidarity, the transit workers, you know, had a setback with their case that their judge kind of found for them in part and denied their case in part. So they still fight. Yes, Ellen, you're absolutely 100% correct. New York City Department of Aging, Lorraine Cortez, has ignored us. And when I saw her 2 years ago, she refused to speak with me. And every time I try to talk with her, she refuses to discuss this issue. We called her office. We spoke with her staff. She, not only will her staff not talk, she won't speak about this. Why? She's a political appointee, and they're more interested in preserving their job than they are about preserving you. The request for you, the promise that was made to you to preserve your health care. Now, a little history here. New York City Department of Aging was one of the agencies that literally protected retirees in the 80s when they went to go and strip down our Medicare B reimbursement under the Koch administration. Department of Aging testified against what the administration was doing. This administration won't even talk to you. Mayor Adams, in the 4 years he's in office, won't talk to us. You have to also look about, some of you are supporters of Zohran Mamdani. Here's a problem with that. You have Bill de Blasio, who made the initial push to push us all into Medicare Advantage, on Zohran's team. You have Dean Foulahan, who was not only his first deputy mayor, but he was also the Office of Management and Budget. And he is also on Zohran's team. That's another problem. So when you see that there's, and the 2 largest unions that did this to us are also on Zohran's team. How much more do you need to know about that? I mean, right there, I'm telling you, all of the people that tried to harm you in the last 4 years are literally on Zohran Mamdani's team, and he doesn't want to talk to us. So right there, that says a lot. You're not seeing the poll. Hold on. I know I scheduled it. So it should have started at 7 and it should have been a YouTube post. Let me see if I can add another one. And then I guess I could just kind of add the numbers all together, I guess. But it should have gone through. Let's see. Yeah, it says 10 minutes ago. All right, let's see if I can put this in, because I really want to see, as while I still have all of you. Oh, here, hold on. Copy. And let me put it in the chat. So for those, it should only work, I believe, for those on YouTube. Are you able to click that link that I just put in the chat? I'm trying. And I want you to think about both of the questions that I asked the candidates and the answers that you got back. Did you feel the answers were sufficient? Did they speak to, because I asked them both the same questions. Did you don't see it either? Well, Merritt, you're on Facebook, not on YouTube. And this, I will do a post. I will do a poll for you Facebookers. I will go create a poll on Facebook. YouTubers, are you seeing the link? You got the link. Okay. Now it will only, no, it doesn't hyperlink. Okay. Let me see why it won't do that. Let's see. Because this should have been easy. And it's never easy when you want it to be easy. Let me see if I can pull up. Yeah, it's only one question. The link is good. You got it, Joey in Brooklyn? Okay. So it works. One question. It's just one question. Who would you vote for? Okay, perfect. And then for you Facebookers, don't worry. When I'm done with this, I will go to Facebook and I will give you a poll there too. I believe that poll will only work for people who are on YouTube. But I want to know, who would you now be leaning to? I gave you all three candidates, including the one that doesn't want to talk to us. You tell me what you would do, and take this seriously, because this is your future. You've watched what we've had to go through for 4 years under this administration, with a mayor who wouldn't talk to us, a mayor who wouldn't work with us, a mayor who wouldn't work with our government liaison or our advisors or even our lawyers. And for 4 years with this administration that won't communicate with us, we're still in court fighting them on 2 of the 3 cases. And we've won 11 times in court, and yet still we fight. So do you want that again? I ask you that question. So thank you. I'm glad the link works for you. I did something right. Thank you, Marcus, if you're watching. And thank you, Tanisha. And thank you, Kiara. They taught me how to use YouTube polls today. So yes. And remember, everyone, our retirees are the most important to us ever. You served this city. You took crappy wages for a lifetime with the promise that the city made to you for your future, that you would have a good pension and you would have health care. And you need someone that's going to stand by you and say, I support this. I will protect this. You earned this. You were wronged. This is really important. This is really important. This is like life or death. And I don't want to hear someone say, well, so-and-so said they wouldn't privatize Medicare. This is more than just Medicare. I'm telling you today about the Widows and Children's Welfare Fund. I don't have an answer for you from the third candidate. I can tell you how these 2 candidates said that they would respect a widower or children's welfare fund, that they would take that burden off the union. The union shouldn't be funding that. Their loved one died in the line of duty after serving this city. The city has an obligation to take care of those people. That is our family. And that's the obligation. And that shouldn't be a burden. So it's really important that we take care of that. So everyone, listen, it's 7:15. I appreciate you guys staying on with me for 2 hours tonight, listening to both candidates. And yes, lights on. I am aware that many of you don't have union jobs, but we pay attention to that. 3/4 of our retirees are union. 1/3 of our 1/4 of our retirees are not. And this is why it's important, because these decisions are made for you. They're put upon you and you're non-union. This is why it's important to keep educating elected. why we fight for this, why we don't have a voice, why we don't have a seat at the table. You see my Shirley Chisholm poster back here. Shirley Chisholm's famous saying is, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. When we occupied DC 37 headquarters, we gave everyone a folding collapsible stool. We brought our own chair. Why? Because District Council 37's Henry Garrido decided to bring the city council to a meeting to discuss our legislation without giving us a seat at that table. We occupied that lobby for hours. City council members came to that rally. They came to the meeting, and when they saw us protesting in the lobby, they chose not to go upstairs. One of those people, Christy Marmorato, District 13, needs your support. She supports you. She chose not to go upstairs because we were in the lobby and not allowed upstairs. This is why we fight. It's important that you remember that, okay? So for you guys, if you have any questions, this is our Friday Live. You didn't just have me. You had Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo come and talk to you for 2 hours. So make sure that you think long and hard about what you would do. Early voting starts tomorrow. The future of the city depends on all of us getting involved. Please don't just stay home. Don't not vote. Your vote matters. People died for the ability to cast a ballot. Don't let your vote go to waste. Get out there and vote. Get your early ballots in, go to early polling, get your rear end out there and go and vote. And make sure you vote for someone who definitely appreciates the work that you gave this city. All right, everyone, you have a great night. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you on the radio on WBAI on Monday at 5 p.m. Have a great weekend. Ciao.
Don't speak what you don't understand. The truth is not in your command. Don't shout about what you think is fake. The decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are. Tall tales will take you very far. Don't scoff when they say it's the end. In this life, you know you can't pretend. The days pass by.